Resist strongly, follow sparingly. Once unquestioning obedience takes hold, once individuals are completely controlled, a nation, a state, or a city on this earth will never regain its freedom thereafter. These cautionary words were expressed by the renowned poet Walt Whitman to his fellow Americans. Whitman understood the essentiality of a free and prosperous society, which relies on individuals who possess the willingness to question and challenge authority when necessary. However, in today's world, only a minority of us live by Whitman's ideals. Instead, blind obedience has become the prevailing norm. We have transformed into passive populations, akin to sheep, easily manipulated and led into the shackles of tyranny. What has led the majority of Western society to disregard Walt Whitman's advice? In this video, we will explore two institutions that have significantly contributed to the creation of a passive population: the compulsory state-run educational system, known as the public school system in North America, and the mainstream media. Public schooling is often hailed as a cornerstone of the modern Western world. Who would question the value of an institution that offers free and mandatory education to all? However, the idealized perception of how these institutions should function diverges greatly from the reality of how they operate. If public schools truly nurtured critical thinking, fostered intellectual curiosity, and produced mentally and physically healthy citizens, their value would be unquestionable. Unfortunately, beneath the surface, beyond the facade presented by the bureaucratic authorities overseeing these institutions, a darker truth emerges. John Taylor Gatto, a prominent critic of public schooling, argues that schools aim to produce predictable and controllable individuals who conform to predefined formulas. While successful in this regard, these products become irrelevant in a society that values independence, self-reliance, and individualism. Well-schooled individuals excel in tasks like sales, paperwork, and technology, but as human beings, they are rendered useless to others and themselves. Contrary to popular belief, public schooling doesn't solely empower individuals. It often shapes compliant citizens who lack the skills to navigate the world and reach their potential. This controlled education, along with mainstream media influence, erodes critical thinking and promotes unquestioning acceptance of authority. Noam Chomsky echoed a similar sentiment in his book Understanding Power, where he expressed, "Considering the prevailing power structure in society, the primary function of institutions such as schools is to primarily train individuals to be obedient and conformist, molding them into controllable and indoctrinated beings." Chomsky argues that schools shape individuals to conform to authority and societal norms, rather than promoting independent thinking and critical analysis. They aim to create a controlled and easily influenced population, reinforcing dominant power dynamics. To some, the following notion may appear controversial, but a closer examination of history reveals that it was indeed the original intention. The state-controlled education system in the Western world were modeled after the factory-style approach to education initially implemented in Prussia during the early 1700s. John Taylor Gatto elaborates on this concept. What is truly astounding is our enthusiastic adoption of one of the most detrimental aspects of Prussian culture, an educational system deliberately crafted to produce individuals with mediocre intellectual capabilities, stifling their inner lives, depriving them of significant leadership skills, and ensuring their compliance and limited development as citizens, all with the purpose of making the population easily manageable. This perspective challenges conventional belief by exposing how education systems influenced by Prussian models prioritize conformity, limit individual potential, and aim to create a malleable and subservient population. Instead of empowering individuals, the focus is on shaping easily controlled entities, hampering critical thinking and autonomy. Albert Einstein, a brilliant mind who achieved extraordinary heights of genius, did not attribute his intellectual development to his compulsory schooling experience. Looking back on his school years, Einstein expressed that after completing his final examinations, his interest in the field he would later revolutionize had nearly vanished. He remarked, "I found the contemplation of scientific problems repulsive to me for an entire year." Einstein believed that one of the fundamental flaws of compulsory state-run education systems lies in their rigid and imposed style of teaching. And then he observed, "It is truly remarkable that the modern methods of instruction have not completely extinguished the sacred curiosity of inquiry. It is a grave mistake to assume that the joy of observing and exploring can be fostered through coercion and a sense of duty." Einstein argued that mandated and coercive education undermines curiosity and intrinsic motivation to learn. Genuine intellectual growth occurs in an environment that nurtures curiosity rather than suppresses it. His perspective reveals the limitations of forceful and duty-based education systems, emphasizing the need for an organic and intrinsic approach to foster a genuine passion for learning. After enduring more than a decade of education within the school system, only a few individuals emerge with a genuine thirst for knowledge and a curiosity that extends to the countless mysteries of the world. Instead, as Bruce Levine highlights in his book Resisting Illegitimate Authority, by the time students graduate, they have been conditioned to be passive, to follow the directions of others, to attach significance to the rewards and punishments imposed by authority, to feign interest in matters they find no genuine concern for, and to believe they are powerless to change their dissatisfying circumstances. Levine's observation reveals that the predominant outcome of the schooling experience is the development of individuals who are compliant and submissive, yielding to the authority's control. They are taught to prioritize external validation and conform to societal expectations, even if it means disregarding their own authentic interests and desires. This conditioning fosters a sense of helplessness, making them believe they lack agency to alter their unsatisfactory situations. In essence, the education system, as portrayed by Levine, often fails to ignite a true passion for learning or foster independent thinking. Instead, it molds individuals into passive followers, instilling a mindset that perpetuates the status quo and discourages critical questioning and self-empowerment. If our education system fails to cultivate the critical and inquisitive minds necessary to safeguard the society against the actions of corrupt authorities, can we rely on the mainstream media to fulfill this role? While the skepticism towards the institution has grown in recent years, discontent and distrust towards the mainstream media have a long-standing history. Thomas Jefferson, for instance, famously stated, "I have given up newspapers in exchange for Tacitus and Thucydides, for Newton and Euclid, and I find myself much happier." Similarly, Nietzsche, known for his intellectual freedom and curiosity, held a critical view of the mainstream media. "They are always sick. They vomit their bile and call it a newspaper." These historical figures expressed their dissatisfaction with the mainstream media and its practices. Jefferson chose to turn to classic works and scientific knowledge for his information, finding greater fulfillment in those sources. Nietzsche characterized the media as purveyors of negativity and distorted information, comparing their output to the act of regurgitation. These perspectives highlight a long-standing mistrust in the mainstream media, suggesting that it may not be the reliable source for cultivating critical thinking or protecting society from corrupt authorities. Instead, individuals throughout history have sought alternative avenues for acquiring knowledge and maintaining intellectual independence. Richard Weaver, a professor at the University of Chicago during the first half of the 20th century, observed an irony in our liberation from a nerd-centric view of the cosmos while simultaneously immersing ourselves in an illusory worldview constructed by the mainstream media. Although Weaver specifically refers to newspapers in his passage, given their dominance in his era, his words hold even greater relevance in today's world, where modern technologies provide even more efficient tools for mass manipulation. Weaver points out that while the traditional concept of a revolving celestial dome has been replaced, modern individuals encounter a similar construct when they engage with their daily newspaper. The newspaper serves as a human-created representation of the world's events surrounding us at any given time. Yet, the average reader rarely questions or examines the underlying significance of this construct, much like their devout predecessors in the 13th century did not question their cosmological beliefs. Weaver's insight sheds light on the power of the media in shaping our perception of reality. Deconstructed narratives and selective presentation of information in newspapers, and by extension, contemporary media outlets, can influence and mold public opinion. As technological advancements provide increasingly sophisticated means of manipulating the masses, Weaver's observations resonate more strongly today, urging us to question the narratives presented to us and to critically examine the sources and significances that shape our understanding of the world. The frequent preference of deception over truth in mainstream media begs the question, why does this occur? According to Noam Chomsky's book Media Control, the mainstream media, like many politicians, is largely influenced by individuals who uphold an elitist ideology. Walter Lippmann, a prominent journalist of the 20th century, exemplified this perspective by referring to the masses as the bewildered herd. Lippmann suggested that one of the primary roles of the media is to ensure that this herd remains passive spectators rather than active participants in shaping society. Chomsky further elaborates on this elitist ideology, which is founded on the belief that the general public is deemed too unintelligent to comprehend complex matters. According to this perspective, if individuals attempt to engage in managing their own affairs, they will only create disturbances and disruptions. Consequently, it is seen as immoral and improper to allow them such agency. The aim, therefore, is to control and pacify the bewildered herd, preventing them from expressing dissent or causing upheaval. Chomsky's analysis reveals a power dynamic where a select group assumes the authority to shape and control the narrative, perpetuating the idea that the masses are incapable of making informed decisions or actively participating in governance. This elitist mindset seeks to subdue and restrain the bewildered herd, fearing the potential consequences if they were to assert their autonomy and challenge the existing order. For those of us who do not belong to the self-proclaimed elite, a crucial question arises. Is the control exerted over the bewildered herd aimed at promoting a prosperous and flourishing society, or is it merely a means to sustain certain institutional structures that favor the privileged few at the expense of the larger society? This inquiry emphasizes the importance of adopting a skeptical stance towards the authority figures of our time. What we truly need are more individuals who embody anti-authoritarianism, individuals who question and challenge authority when necessary. It is essential to clarify that being anti-authoritarian does not imply replacing passive acceptance of authority with passive rejection of all authority. Anti-authoritarians understand that certain institutions and authority figures serve beneficial purpose and, therefore, should be acknowledged and accepted. However, anti-authoritarians also recognize that consensus does not always equate to truth, that power can corrupt, and that individuals can lie. They understand that some institutions exist solely to maintain structures of power and domination, devoid of any moral justification. By cultivating a skeptical mindset and embracing anti-authoritarian values, we empower ourselves to question the motives and actions of those in positions of authority. It is through the critical lens that we can discern the true intentions behind certain institutional structures and ensure that they genuinely serve the betterment of society as a whole. The presence of anti-authoritarians challenges the status quo, promoting a healthier balance of power and encouraging accountability among those who hold authority. Acknowledging these indisputable realities, the anti-authoritarian approaches all figures of authority with a necessary measure of skepticism. They are willing to question and scrutinize the actions and commands of authority figures, and if it becomes evident that such authority is tainted by corruption and poses harm to the welfare of society, they may even resist compliance. As Henry David Thoreau expressed in his work Civil Disobedience, if the machinery of government is such that it requires you to be the agent of injustice to another, then, I say, break the law. Thoreau's words emphasize the moral imperative to challenge and defy unjust laws and systems that perpetuate injustice. The anti-authoritarian recognizes that blind adherence to authority can enable and perpetuate harm. They advocate for civil disobedience when confronted with situations where the very nature of governmental machinery or authority demands individuals to participate in acts of injustice. The anti-authoritarian perspective challenges authority to protect society's well-being and justice. It rejects immunity and demands opposition to unjust power. Should we fear more anti-authoritarians? While concerns may arise from ingrained obedience and media influence, they are unfounded. In fact, anti-authoritarians are vital guardians of a thriving society. History shows obedience leading to greater crimes than rebellion. Blindly following authority is dangerous. Anti-authoritarians challenge unjust systems, expose corruption, and advocate for a just society. They question the status quo, demand accountability, and prevent abuse of power. By resisting authority and promoting transparency, they safeguard freedom, justice, and human rights. Their presence drives progress, addressing flaws and injustices. Anti-authoritarians contribute to social justice, critical thinking, and protection against abuses of power. Embracing more anti-authoritarians is essential for positive change, vigilance against injustice caused by obedience and authority. Malevolent authority combined with a passive citizenry is the recipe for tyranny, and so anti-authoritarians should not be feared or ostracized. They should be welcomed. They are the individuals who raise the alarm and awaken the slumbering masses to the existence of corrupt authority. A society without a healthy number of anti-authoritarians, where they are shunned and silenced, it's a society that has chosen the comfort of illusions over the desire for truth and is, therefore, a society paving the way for its own destruction. The 18th century French philosopher Voltaire cautioned, "So long as the people do not care to exercise their freedom, those who wish to tyrannize will do so. For tyrants are active and ardent, and will devote themselves in the name of any number of gods, religious or otherwise, to put shackles upon sleeping men." Voltaire's wisdom shows that a society must not ignore freedom. Anti-authoritarians prevent tyranny, protect liberty and justice, challenge the status quo, promote critical thinking, and highlight the dangers of unchecked authority. Embracing anti-authoritarians is vital for a truth-seeking, free, and collective well-being society. We genuinely appreciate you spending your time on this channel. If you found this video valuable, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel. By subscribing, you'll never miss out on future content that can help you on your journey of personal growth. Thank you for your support, and I wish you a wonderful day ahead.